We've explored the origins of consciousness before on The Evolving Leader with Mark Solms. In this show, we talk to Anil Seth, who, like Mark, is attempting to break down one of the greatest mysteries facing us. How do we have this sense of ourselves? By combining the analytical approach of neuroscience with the study of our subjective experience. He shares insights gathered in his new book, Being You, in a deeply enjoyable conversation.
So it seems that consciousness studies remained primarily outside of science and more in the field of philosophy until somewhat recently. And we can refer to David Chalmers' hard problem of consciousness when saying that. What's changed that's enabling you to be able to break down the seemingly unfathomable nature of the topic?
Well, it's interesting. It's been inside and outside of science for as long as there's been science. And consciousness, this question of how experience happens and conscious self, who am I, what it means to be a person, this has been a question for the ages. Some of the oldest philosophers that we know of thought about these sorts of things. And from the very beginning of science, there was this sort of challenge. How do we integrate subjectivity, the first-person perspective, into what seems to be an enterprise, a human enterprise that is defined by being objective about things? You can put an object, a cup of tea, a frog, a piece of grass, a molecule on a table. You can look at it and make measurements, but you can't put a conscious experience on the table and all see that conscious experience. I can't put my conscious experience right here and right now on a table or a lab bench or whatever so that many people can look at it at the same time. It's intrinsically subjective. That's why it's been treated as sometimes rather fringe, or, as you put it, sometimes completely outside the remit of science, something very disreputable. Certainly when I was starting off in the early 1990s, consciousness was not on the menu. But it had been before. At the beginning of psychology and neuroscience in the late 19th century, consciousness was widely recognized as the central question, quite rightly so. But because of these problems in how to get the data, it became more the territory of philosophy and also religion, of course. So what's changed? Well, a few things have changed. For one thing, the balance has just redressed itself a bit. You can't study the mind and the brain forever without eventually returning to what is the central problem. How does consciousness happen? But we also have better methods now. We have brain scanning technology. We can put people inside brain scanners and observe what happens inside their brains when they're having particular kinds of conscious experiences, or when they fall asleep or go under anesthesia. That gives us very direct data about the brain basis of consciousness. And there's many other experimental methods now where we can manipulate what people are consciously aware of while keeping other things constant, like keeping the data that's coming into their eyes or ears the same. So the combination of these sorts of methods and the development of new theories as well that try to explain why conscious experiences relate to the brain in the ways that they do. These things have all given rise to an emerging, not quite mature, but definitely an exciting new science of consciousness since the 1990s.
We hope you're enjoying the Evolving Leader shorts that we're releasing before we start Season 7 in September. You can find the rest of this conversation and all of the Evolving Leader episodes on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and your favourite podcast outlet. I'll also put a link in the show notes.